In a world of glitz and glamour, few names command the kind of awe and envy that Simon Cowell elicits. From his iconic leather-jacketed presence on talent competitions to his razor-sharp critiques, Cowell has built an empire that seems untouchable. Yet, when the cameras stop rolling and the applause fades, a hidden drama simmers beneath the surface. A staggering fortune, estimated in the hundreds of millions, now threatens to unravel family bonds and stir bitter disputes. His closest relatives, who once basked in the reflected spotlight of his fame, find themselves caught in the crossfire of inheritance battles and trust fund controversies. What exactly did Simon Cowell amass? Why has it become a lightning rod for conflict? And how did a man famed for his tough love outside the boardroom become the protagonist of an even harsher private showdown? Unraveling this story means diving deep into a labyrinth of corporate entities, offshore accounts, and legal documents, all designed to shield his wealth from prying eyes, and from his own kin. The first stirrings of tension emerged when murmurs leaked about the structure of Cowell's estate plan. Long rumored to be fiercely protective of both his brand and assets, he instead chose to place the bulk of his holdings under the management of third-party trustees. On paper, these trustees act as neutral stewards, dispersing funds only under carefully defined conditions. Yet for his brother and chosen heirs, every scheduled payment became a source of anxiety. What qualifies as an allowable expense? How does one measure emergency versus lifestyle needs? Whispered conversations at lavish family gatherings morphed into hushed debates about legal fees and contested clauses. A document meant to safeguard legacies suddenly appeared to many as an obstacle to legacies being shared. In sharp contrast to the united front the Cowell family once displayed on red carpets and at premieres, fractures appeared. Simon's elder half-brother, for instance, publicly questioned the fairness of distribution, lamenting that the trustees' decisions felt arbitrary and cold. A family that once cheered Simon's every success now bristled at board-room memos and accounting ledgers. Social media began to light up with cryptic posts, some praising Simon's genius, others accusing the trustees of betraying the family. Each tweet felt like a brick dropped into an already unsettled pond, sending ripples across a world watching to see if the British television mogul's personal life would follow suit with the high drama of his shows. How did Simon Cowell accumulate such vast resources in the first place? It began with fractions of royalties on hit shows like Pop Idol, The X Factor, and Britain's Got Talent. Over decades, syndicated agreements and international spin-offs transformed a signature catchphrase. I don't mean to be rude, but into recurring revenue streams that kept flowing long after the final curtain. He parlayed on-camera success into behind-the-scenes power, negotiating ownership stakes that, over time, eclipsed the earnings of many of his television colleagues. The policymaking, the boardroom decisions, and the revenue-sharing pacts all reflected a man determined to maintain absolute control over his domain. And yet, control in business does not always translate into harmony at home. Reports suggest that Simon's will contain trigger clauses, activated only under specific circumstances such as prolonged incapacity or predefined age thresholds for heirs. Such provisions, while legally sound, have only fueled suspicion among close family members who fear their inheritance may be withheld or delayed. One insider described it as the ultimate power play. Even after death, Simon would continue to dictate the pace at which his fortune trickles out, effectively making his loved ones dependent on the structures he erected. The emotional stakes are high and intensely personal. For siblings who spent childhood summers dreaming of shared adventures and collective investments, the reality of waiting for trustee approvals can feel like a betrayal. Weekend retreats, luxury vacations, even educational funding, everything becomes a potential flashpoint. The tension is so palpable that some relatives are reported to be seeking injunctions to force early disclosures of accounting statements, not for the sake of prying into Simon's business minutiae, but simply to know where they stand. After years of finding security in his success, they now question where they fit into his grand design, transitioning from the sterile world of legal documents to the raw heart of human emotion. We find the story of a man who built his reputation on discovering raw talent and turning it into gold. Yet, in the quest for perfection on stage, perhaps he never anticipated the stage he'd leave behind at home. A stage littered with legal briefs and tearful boardroom confrontations. Family photos once capturing private smiles now seem to carry undertones of anxiety. Shared Sunday dinners might have given way to silent rooms where each member wonders, will today's conversation be the one that triggers another dispute? As we peel back each layer of Simon Cowell's meticulously arranged legacy, we're reminded that wealth doesn't automatically craft happiness. It can amplify old wounds, invite unwanted scrutiny, and create rivalries as sharp as any televised showdown. The very fortune designed to secure the future for loved ones has become, for some, an emotional trap. As trustees deliberate over every disbursement and relatives await each decision with bated breath, the question remains, will Simon's final act bind his family closer? Or will it leave behind scars deeper than any on-screen critique? In the wake of these unfolding disputes, observers outside the Cowell circle have begun to weigh in. Financial advisors warn that family feuds over inheritance can do serious damage, not just to personal relationships, but also to the underlying assets themselves. Legal fees can drain millions. Valuable properties may be tied up in litigation for years. In effect, what was intended as a safeguard against unpredictability becomes a self-fulfilling liability. Even the world's shrewdest dealmakers sometimes underestimate how emotional complexity can eclipse financial acumen. To understand the full scope, we turn to the architecture of Simon's estate plan. It's built upon a network of discretionary trusts, each with its own conditions and distributions. For instance, one fund disperses income to siblings only after they reach ages 30, 37, and 40, respectively. Another allows for emergency payouts, but defines emergencies so narrowly that natural disasters or major medical procedures qualify, while college tuition or mortgage expenses do not. These fine print definitions have ignited countless debates. Two trustees, each chosen for reputational neutrality, serve 5-year terms with optional renewals. Yet concern lingers. Will the trustees side with the beneficiaries or with the spirit of Simon's precise instructions? Then there is the offshore component. A significant portion of the fortune sits in jurisdictions known for privacy protections. Vanilla shell corporations, foundation structures, and layered holding companies shield the identity of the true beneficiaries. On one hand, this veil reduces publicity and shields the estate from aggressive claims by outsiders. On the other, family members must navigate opaque reporting requirements, quarterly statements that read like hieroglyphs. To request a line-item explanation, a beneficiary must submit formal requests well in advance, sometimes weeks before their next board meeting. This procedural hurdle leaves heirs feeling cut off from their own wealth. Emotions escalate when we consider the human toll. One relative confided to a friend that the process felt like going through an advanced corporate audit. Except the auditors held the purse strings and condescended to explain things in abstract terms. What should be a birthright became a bureaucratic challenge requiring lawyers just to ask basic questions. The result? Siblings who once shared laughter over childhood memories now communicate only through legal counsel. A family group chat, once filled with photos of holidays and football games, is now silent, save for an occasional mediator's message. As the drama unfolded, financial commentators took note. One prominent wealth strategist wrote that Simon's approach turns inheritance into a strategic puzzle, not a gift. While the phrase was catchy, it stung. After all, the world knows Simon for his blunt honesty on talent shows, a brand built on direct feedback. But within his own home, that same bluntness evolved into cryptic clauses, leaving beneficiaries guessing at intentions. When the public perceives transparency elsewhere, the discrepancy feels like a betrayal. Yet amidst the tension, some voices call for reconciliation. A mediator specializing in high-net-worth family offices argued that regular in-person meetings, perhaps quarterly, could help rebuild trust. It's recommended that trustees host informal gatherings where beneficiaries can ask questions in real time, forging understanding beyond legal jargon. Another expert suggests introducing a family council, a non-binding forum where siblings and cousins discuss shared goals, decide on charitable projects, and collectively propose amendments to the trust. These solutions, while promising, require willingness from all parties to engage. A commodity currently in short supply. There is also the matter of timing. With Simon still alive and rumored to have revisited his plans every few years, beneficiaries hope for revisions that inject more flexibility. In fact, some insiders claim that Simon adjusted key language as recently as 18 months ago, hinting at an awareness of potential discord. Even so, legacy structures created now may remain unchanged once he passes. The legacy war could extend, paradoxically, far beyond Simon's own involvement. Contrast this with other public figures who have navigated similar storms more successfully. A certain media mogul famously held a family retreat in the Swiss Alps, inviting all heirs to sign off on revised guidelines over a weekend of skiing and strategy sessions. By coupling elite leisure with legal minutiae, he broke down barriers. Another tech titan established a grants mechanism rather than direct allocations. Beneficiaries submitted project proposals to a committee, shifting focus from entitlements to collaborations. Could the Cowells adopt similar approaches? Only time will tell. For attorneys drafting successor documents, Simon's case serves as both lesson and cautionary tale. Efforts to minimize conflict through rigid parameters can backfire, creating more uncertainty than clarity. The art of estate planning is evolving. Beneficiaries want engagement, transparency, and a sense of partnership, not just capital. This shift is driving world's largest family offices to embrace what they call participatory trusts, blending governance principles from corporate boardrooms with family therapy techniques. In the high-stakes arena of celebrity fortunes, every move is magnified, and for Simon Cowell, the glare of public scrutiny has intensified. Reports of siblings filing motions for early account disclosures have breached the hushed confines of boardrooms and spilled into Fortune magazine analyses, social media uproars, and late-night talk show monologues. Fans who once applauded his candor on television now question whether the mogul's unyielding control extends beyond the stage and into the hearts of his family. Commentators debate the optics. Is Simon displaying ruthless business instincts, or does he simply distrust family dynamics enough to sacrifice goodwill for structure? Such questions fuel a feedback loop that risks tarnishing a reputation built on discovering diamonds in the rough. Behind the lawsuits and trust debates lies the human story of characters longing for closure. Simon's younger sister, known for her charitable work in inner-city education, reportedly voiced frustration that her proposed community project grants were repeatedly sidelined by trustee decisions. She calls the situation a limbo that saps my energy, yearning instead for meaningful collaboration. Meanwhile, a cousin who joined the family's small media venture in 2015 finds himself underpaid in comparison to peers, despite formal agreements promising equitable profit splits. His attempts to renegotiate by tapping into his stake have reportedly been rebuffed on the grounds that Simon's blueprint prioritizes brand reinvestment over individual payouts. The disconnect between written clauses and spoken promises has created an undercurrent of resentment. In parallel, legal scholars weigh in on potential outcomes. Should the trustees exercise their full discretion, beneficiaries may find themselves bound by decades of restrictive language. Yet the law also allows for equitable remedy in cases where the settlor's intent becomes unduly burdensome or contrary to public policy. Some attorneys argue a challenge could hinge on proving that the trust terms produce unanticipated hardship or violate a fiduciary duty by lacking fairness. If successful, such cases require courts to interpret ambiguous clauses in favor of beneficiaries. However, litigation is costly, time-consuming, and emotionally draining. A path only few are willing to tread without clear signs of victory. On the corporate side, insiders caution that drawn-out discord can imperil the very assets at stake. Properties can lose value if potential buyers fear messy title transfers. Entertainment companies might hesitate to partner with an estate embroiled in litigation. Creditors and partners demand stability, and rumors of family bickering can spark gun-jumping clauses that trigger loan defaults or accelerated payments. In essence, the very mechanisms designed to secure wealth can backfire, destabilizing revenue streams that underpin the estate. That ironic twist is not lost on close observers, some of whom believe Simon's legal fortress may ultimately collapse from its own weight. Yet there are glimmers of hope if the family chooses reconciliation. Proposals for binding arbitration have surfaced, offering a confidential forum where beneficiaries and trustees can explore compromises under an expert's oversight. Arbitration clauses, often included in modern trusts, can expedite resolutions and keep disputes away from sensational headlines. Advocates argue that confidential negotiations allow for flexible settlements, adjusting payout schedules, revising eligibility ages, or even creating carve outs for specific life events without public spectacle. Even Simon's public statements hint at a desire for harmony. In a recent Rare interview, he commented, "I've always believed in rewarding hard work, and family is no exception. I hope we can find common ground." Those words, though cautious, suggest he's aware of the widening gulf. Behind closed doors, one source says he's considering inviting family members to a formal trust review summit where legal counsel, financial experts, and each beneficiary lay cards on the table. The goal: update archaic provisions, incorporate modern governance practices, and re-establish trust before his own health or circumstances precipitate irrevocable conflict. Contrast that with cases where generational rifts became irreparable. The estate of a famous singer once fractured into competing factions, each controlling separate companies and battling over touring rights, effectively diluting the brand they fought so hard to build. Avoiding that fate means crafting a roadmap that aligns individual aspirations with collective legacy, transforming inheritance from a zero-sum game into a shared journey. If Simon's clan can embrace participatory strategies, they not only protect assets, but also create a blueprint for future global families facing similar crossroads. As twilight descends on one of entertainment's most enduring careers, the final act is still being written. Will Simon Cowell's meticulously constructed empire become a cautionary tale about the perils of perfectionism in private affairs? Or can he and his kin rewrite the script, drawing on lessons from both ruinous feuds and triumphant reconciliations? Only by navigating law, legacy, and love will they decide if this inheritance ends in unity or miserably fragments a family forever. In this evolving saga, one question looms larger than any legal clause or financial ledger: can emotional intelligence and strategic foresight unite where rigid contracts have divided? Simon Cowell's track record of transforming raw talent into international sensations suggests he understands potential better than most. Yet channeling that same vision toward healing family fractures demands an entirely different skill set. Achieving peace among heirs is more art than science, requiring empathy, communication, and willingness to compromise. The stakes, however, could not be higher. By forging a path forward, the Cowell clan stands to safeguard not only their fortune but also the intangible bond that once made them both relatives and champions. Failure, in contrast, risks igniting rival claims, draining resources for years, and subjecting the next generation to bitter disputes. It is exactly the sort of high-stakes drama Simon has thrived on television, albeit with happier endings and applauding audiences. The final episode of this real-life drama remains unwritten, and its outcome hinges on choices made today. One practical measure gaining traction among wealthy families is the implementation of a family office that employs a dedicated trust committee. This committee often includes independent advisors, legal experts, and rotating family representatives, ensuring decisions reflect diverse interests rather than a single vision. For the Cowell case, such a committee could serve as a collective steward, prepared to interpret Simon's directives in light of evolving circumstances. Commissioning periodic reviews would allow amendment clauses to accommodate life changes, like healthcare emergencies or entrepreneurial ventures. Transparency remains essential. Offering beneficiaries digestible summaries of trust activity fosters engagement and minimizes suspicion. Another strategy involves establishing philanthropic funds within the estate, inviting family members to propose charitable initiatives. By channeling a portion of assets toward social causes, heirs can collaborate on shared missions, transforming inheritance disputes into team efforts for greater good. This positive spin not only reinforces family solidarity, but also helps beneficiaries see wealth as a vehicle for impact rather than personal entitlement. Importantly, trustees can set flexible budgets rather than rigid allocations, empowering participants to learn financial stewardship through real-world project management. A learning curve might include mentorship programs with nonprofit leaders, workshops on grant evaluation, and yearly reporting ceremonies that celebrate successes. Over time, these activities could replace contention with creativity, ensuring that Cowell's legacy resonates far beyond checkbooks and courtrooms. Finally, the psychological element cannot be overlooked. Heirs need to feel they are part of a living legacy rather than passive recipients. By hosting annual gatherings at key Cowell Properties locations, family members can experience firsthand the evolution of the brand and the enterprises Simon built. Interactive sessions, such as behind-the-scenes studio tours, guest judge spotlights, and joint philanthropy kickoffs encourage personal investment in maintaining the reputation he crafted. Such experiences can supplement the financial relationship, fostering pride and shared purpose. Moreover, clarity around timelines and expectations is critical, providing a sliding scale roadmap that outlines when specific assets or stock options become available reduces anxiety and speculation. Heirs can balance personal aspirations, buying homes, funding businesses, or supporting children's education, without the shadow of uncertainty. When beneficiaries understand the when, they are less likely to litigate over the what. Of course, implementation depends on trust, the very commodity under strain. Simon's willingness to participate in these engagements, or at least endorse them, signals to trustees and beneficiaries that his intentions align with collective well-being. Without buy-in from the estate's architect, reforms risk being dismissed as token gestures. But if he steps onto the same stage he commands on television, inviting family alongside him, the act itself becomes a powerful gesture of unity. Ultimately, transforming discord into dialogue requires vision, courage, and leadership, qualities Simon has demonstrated on global stages countless times. Now, his most challenging performance might be right at home, where the stakes are measured not by television ratings but by the enduring bonds of kinship. If managed wisely, this inheritance narrative can become a blueprint for families navigating the intersection of wealth and relationships. Failure to adapt, however, risks unraveling generational prosperity and fracturing the very legacy Simon spent decades building. But the true measure of success may lie in the next generation's ability to seize both opportunity and responsibility, weaving Simon's entrepreneurial spirit into fresh innovations. As the torch passes to nieces, nephews, and distant cousins, a culture of trust, open dialogue, and shared passion must guide their steps. The world will be watching. Just as audiences tune in to watch new talent rise, they will watch the Cowell family confront its greatest challenge offstage. How they perform will speak volumes about values that money alone cannot buy. Linking character to legacy. No contract can fully anticipate this test. Simon's true fortune may be the family unity forged in adversity. In the final analysis, two starkly different futures await the Cowell family, and each hinges on choices made in the coming weeks and months. In one scenario, unresolved tensions heap into a crescendo of litigation that dismantles the goodwill Simon spent decades building. Trust beneficiaries, frustrated by slow, moving trustees and tangled offshore entities, pursue court battles that drain not only the estate's resources, but also erode personal relationships. Headlines spotlight bitter courtroom exchanges rather than Simon's television triumphs. Real estate tied up in probate remains idle, missing market opportunities, while legacy companies struggle under the weight of uncertain leadership. Key partners grow wary of entanglements, leaving promising media and branding deals on the table. In short, a fortune designed to cement Cowell's reputation becomes mired in acrimony and inertia, with every legal brief undercutting the family's public image. Contrast that with a second, hopeful path, one marked by proactive engagement and mutual respect. Imagine the Cowells convening a formal summit, armed not with attorneys ready to litigate, but with facilitators trained in emotional intelligence and conflict resolution. Around a large table in Los Angeles or London, beneficiaries share personal goals, whether launching new ventures, funding educational scholarships, or supporting Simon's philanthropic vision. Trustees present clear, jargon-free financial updates, answering questions with patience and empathy. Draft amendment proposals emerge, vetted by a rotating family council. When the time comes to distribute funds, each recipient understands the rationale, tailored allocations that reflect both need and merit, never blind entitlement. Within months, the family office jazzes up its internal communications, sharing quarterly newsletters that blend asset performance with human interest stories, celebrating milestones like sponsored art exhibitions or youth mentorship programs. In this optimistic scenario, the Cowells set a new standard for celebrity estates. Financial commentators laud their transition from rigid, top-down structures to inclusive, transparent governance. A leading wealth management magazine publishes a feature entitled, Cowell's Comeback: How One Mogul Turned Family Discord into Collective Innovation. Industry conferences invite family office experts to dissect their playbook. And perhaps most importantly, future generations, nieces and nephews, grow up knowing that their heritage is not just a bank account, but a community built on collaboration. The magic Simon discovered in raw, undiscovered talent finds a mirror in how the family unearths potential within each other. To tip the balance toward this brighter future, several concrete steps stand out. First, convene an independent trust review board that meets biannually. This board would include one rotating family representative, one independent legal advisor, and one neutral financial expert. Their express mission to translate technical trust language into actionable guidance, ensuring beneficiaries understand both the spirit and the letter of Simon's intentions. Second, formalize a family welfare fund, a pool with modest annual distributions earmarked for personal development, health crisis, and social initiatives. Here, everyone knows that proposals for funding must align with agreed values, whether supporting arts education, mental health awareness, or community uplift. Because the fund operates on a pro bono advisory panel, grants become a mechanism for building consensus and trust. Third, integrate experiential experiences with estate management. Few things build camaraderie like a shared adventure or creative project. From filming a family-led short documentary on Simon's life to curating a traveling exhibit of historical talent show memorabilia, the Cowells can refresh their connection to the brand he created. These activities not only solidify emotional bonds but also foster collective ownership of his legacy. When cousins collaborate on narrative storytelling workshops, for instance, they see firsthand how Simon nurtured raw talent, just as they're now nurturing each other. Yet none of these measures matter if underlying attitudes remain adversarial. A cultural shift must take root, an acknowledgement that inheritance is more than currency. It's the transfer of values, opportunities, and shared responsibilities. Simon's famously candid television presence taught millions to embrace feedback and grow from it. That same ethos, a willingness to listen, adapt, and refine, can serve his family now. Each beneficiary, trustee, and advisor must commit to regular check-ins, open dialogue, and grace under pressure. By framing their discussions not as power struggles, but as stewardship of a collective vision, the Cowells stand a chance at a harmonious inheritance that enriches both capital and connection. As we peer ahead, public perception plays a critical role. Much like a television rating, sentiment analysis of social media and news coverage will reflect the family's progress or pitfalls. If headlines shift from "Cowell clan divided" to "Cowell family unites for community impact," the broader world will take notice. Sponsors, media partners, and even new talent shows may align themselves with the family's renewed spirit of collaboration. Sponsors prize reliability. Seeing a celebrity family aligned with modern, inclusive governance cannot help but enhance brand equity for everyone involved. Ultimately, Simon Cowell's final legacy may transcend the total dollar value he amassed. It could lie in how his family redeems conflict into cooperation, transforming personal disputes into collective endeavors that honor his life's work. Money, after all, is just one medium through which he expressed belief in potential. If heirs, trustees, and advisors can channel that same belief internally, then the fortune will achieve its highest purpose, fueling dreams, strengthening bonds, and inspiring the world far beyond any studio stage. Ultimately, the final chapter of the Cowell inheritance saga will be written not in courtrooms, but in family living rooms and virtual meeting spaces. Each heir stands at a crossroads. Choose confrontation fueled by entitlement or collaboration rooted in shared values. Past tensions can either become permanent scars or serve as catalysts for renewal. When dialogues replace disputes and respect guides decisions, the Cowells may discover a pathway that honors Simon's legacy. Every conversation today shapes the unity. Consider formalizing rituals that blend Simon's love for performance with family bonding. An annual talent and tradition weekend could become a cornerstone event, where each generation showcases hidden gifts, singing, painting, or entrepreneurial pitches, even over a simple homemade meal. These gatherings would not only cement emotional ties, but remind each participant of shared purpose to build something lasting together. When nieces and nephews take center stage alongside trustees, they learn that stewardship extends beyond spreadsheets into creativity and mutual celebration. Technology can further bridge gaps. A secure family portal, branded with Simon's signature style, could host interactive timelines of the estate, visualizing asset flows, legal milestones, and philanthropic successes. Discussion threads, tagged by topic, allow heirs to pose questions and receive prompt, transparent replies from trustees. Integrated polling features let family members vote on non-binding proposals, from naming a new scholarship fund to selecting a venue for the next gathering. By democratizing small decisions, the estate plan comes alive as a shared project rather than a static decree. Yet even the most thoughtful structures require a shared mindset shift, viewing inheritance as stewardship rather than entitlement. Workshops led by family, coaching professionals can guide beneficiaries through the emotional landscape of legacy. Exercises in empathetic listening teach heirs to uncover the fears and hopes behind each question. When beneficiaries hear one another's stories, dreams of starting a nonprofit, worries about mortgage payments, hopes for travel scholarships, they begin to see the fortune not as a personal jackpot, but as a communal toolbox for possibility. Trustees, for their part, must embrace flexibility within Simon's original intent. Periodic, legacy reviews could activate built-in amendment clauses, allowing restatement of certain criteria as life circumstances change. A neutral facilitator can present updated guidelines at each review, ensuring that conditions like age thresholds or emergency definitions keep pace with modern realities. This dynamic approach prevents stagnation and communicates to heirs that Simon's vision accommodates growth, just as he adapted talent shows across decades and continents. Philanthropy offers another powerful lever for unity. By establishing a Cowell Family Impact Fund, each beneficiary can propose grants aligned with agreed-upon themes, arts education, mental health advocacy, or youth entrepreneurship, and compete for funding through transparent pitch sessions. Winners receive not only financial support but mentorship from advisors and access to Simon's network of industry insiders. The result feels less like a parental handout and more like a startup incubator fostering collaboration, healthy competition, and hands-on experience in decision-making. Measuring progress is equally crucial. Quarterly newsletters, delivered via the family portal, can report on asset performance, charitable outcomes, and upcoming milestones. Infographics simplify complex financial data, while human interest spotlights celebrate beneficiaries' personal achievements. From opening a community center to producing a short film, each report ends with a forward-looking teaser. Next quarter, we'll explore. This curated blend of data and narrative keeps everyone engaged and reminds beneficiaries that their roles extend beyond heirs to active contributors. Of course, realignment takes time and goodwill. Early successes will likely involve small wins, a timely release of funds for a single charitable project, a family vote on an independent trustee, or a well-attended creative retreat. Celebrating these victories, no matter how modest, builds momentum and counters the narrative of discord. Over time, trust grows, making it easier to tackle bigger challenges like revising major distribution clauses or resolving long-standing grievances. Incremental progress yields confidence that the system works for everyone's benefit. Ultimately, Simon Cowell's greatest legacy may prove to be not the fortune itself, but how his family handles it after he's gone. The world has watched him transform raw talent into global sensations, valuing empathy alongside candor. Now, the Cowells have a chance to mirror that balance at home, applying strategic structure alongside genuine compassion. If they succeed, they won't just protect a multi-hundred-million-dollar estate, they'll model a new paradigm of celebrity inheritance, one where transparency, collaboration, and shared purpose outshine any courtroom drama.